In 2004, a 19-year-old single mother named Fantasia Barrino won American Idol. Her first album sold almost 2 million copies, and she won a Grammy. 9 years later, she signed the deed to her $1.3 million mansion back to the bank and walked away with $0. Almost every retelling of what happened uses the same word: bankrupt. The court records say something else. And in February of this year, her own father went on a live stream and accused her husband of taking what was left. We pulled the foreclosure paperwork, the tax record, and her own words on camera. This is where the money actually went. Part 1. Start with what she made, because the size of it is the whole point. Fantasia won the 3rd season of American Idol in the spring of 2004, standing on that stage at 19 years old with a baby daughter waiting at home. She had grown up singing in church in High Point, North Carolina, and she had become a mother as a teenager, years before any of the fame arrived. Her performance of the song "Summertime" during the competition is still replayed today as one of the defining moments in the show's history. Her first album, Free Yourself, came out that November. It opened at number 8 on the album chart with 240,000 copies in its first week, and it went platinum. By the summer of 2010, the industry sales trackers put it at roughly 1.8 million copies sold in the United States. Her debut single, I Believe, went straight to number 1, and it ended the year as the best-selling single in the country. The lead single off her second album sat at the top of the R&B chart for 8 straight weeks and went gold. In 2011, she won a Grammy. Then came Broadway. In 2007, she took over the lead in the musical The Color Purple, won a theater award for that debut, and the box office reportedly climbed by around $34 million during her run. Years later, she played that same character, Celie, in the 2023 film version, the one that opened huge on Christmas Day, won her an NAACP Image Award, and put her in the conversation at the Golden Globes and the BAFTAs. So this is not the story of someone who never had money. She had a great deal of it, from records, from the stage, from film. What almost no one has ever actually traced is where it all went. And the very first clue is something she admitted about herself on national television before a single dollar was gone. Part 2. In 2005, sitting for an interview on the ABC program 2020, Fantasia said out loud that she was functionally illiterate. She could barely read. She has described faking her way through parts of American Idol, brushing off the reading with a line about being country, and learning her songs by ear because she could not read the words on the page. She said she memorized the song "Summertime" rather than read it. And then she said the part that matters most for a money story. She signed record deals and contracts that she could not read and did not understand. Her own words were that she did not even know what she was signing. She just signed. And here is the detail that makes that impossible to forget. A year later, she released a memoir called Life Is Not a Fairy Tale, which became a #1 bestseller, a book about her own life that she could not fully read herself. It was turned into a television movie soon after, and she played herself in it. Sit with that for a second, because it reframes everything that came after it. A teenager walks into the biggest opportunity of her entire life, and the paperwork that decides who owns what, who gets paid, and what she owes, is paper she physically cannot read. She was not careless with her money in the way that people like to assume. She was handed documents she had no way to check for herself, and she trusted the people holding the pen. That is the crack. The whole fortune would eventually fall through. And the very first time it cracked wide open, it was not a manager or a record label that did it. It was the government, and it came looking for taxes. Part 3. The trouble showed up as a knock at the door. Fantasia owed back taxes on income she had earned in 2006, and to deal with it, she took a loan from a company down in Florida, somewhere in the range of $60,000. She paid back only a small fraction of it, around $10,000, and the lender took her to court and won a judgment against her. By January of 2009, her home outside Charlotte was scheduled to be sold at auction, with court filings valuing the property at more than $1 million. She managed to save it at the last possible moment with a private settlement. Then, in 2011, a bank came after her again over a separate debt of around $25,000. Read that whole sequence one more time, because the shape of it repeats for the next 4 years straight. Money comes in. The taxes on that money do not get handled. A short-term loan gets signed to cover the gap. The loan turns into a lawsuit. And then, the house goes up for auction. And she was earning at the very top of her field the entire time all of this was happening. In the summer of 2010, Forbes ranked her the 4th highest earning American Idol alumni in the country, at around $4 million for that year alone. So the money was real, and it was still coming in. The machinery sitting underneath it was quietly falling apart. Part 4. In August of 2010, Fantasia overdosed on aspirin and a sleep aid. She survived, and afterward she was blunt about it, telling People magazine that she knew exactly what she was doing, that you cannot accidentally take a whole bottle of pills. The pressure around her at that moment was financial, as much as anything else, tangled up with a public lawsuit. The wife of a man she had been seeing had sued her, and a judge would eventually rule in Fantasia's favor. But some of the money that should have been safe was already gone before any of that. She has said her earnings from Broadway largely went to surgery on tumors that had grown on her vocal cords, the injury that kept pulling her out of the show for weeks at a time. All of this was unfolding while cameras followed her through a reality television show, documenting the worst of it as it happened. And the biggest drain of all was closer than any of it. In an interview with Oprah, Fantasia described supporting her daughter plus 6 unemployed adults inside her house, with no money coming in during a stretch when she was recovering and could not work at all. She put it plainly. She said that she created that monster herself, that once she began to give and give and give, everyone around her decided that this was the good life. This is the part the tabloid version leaves out entirely. She was not blowing a fortune on herself. She was the single paycheck for a whole household of people, spending it faster than one career could ever refill it, while the tax bills on all of that income kept coming due. And in 2013, the house she had rescued once before finally went for good. Part 5. She had bought a 6-bedroom mansion outside Charlotte in 2007 for $1.3 million, a home that had reportedly once belonged to the rapper LL Cool J. By 2012, she had it on the market for $800,000, a full $500,000 below what she had paid for it, and it still would not sell. So in February of 2013, she did the thing that almost nobody describes correctly. She transferred the deed straight back to the bank in what is called a deed in lieu of foreclosure. She was not dragged through a courtroom and foreclosed on in front of a judge. She handed the keys over and walked away for $0, and the home later resold for around $750,000. And it was not the only property she lost during these years. She had a second Charlotte home, bought for $740,000 back in 2004, and in 2018 it reportedly sold for $465,000, another loss on paper. 2 houses, both moving for far less than she had ever put into them, one of them handed over to the lender for nothing at all. And this is the exact moment the internet decided that it already knew what had happened to her. It decided that she had gone bankrupt, and it has been repeating that one word ever since. That is where the record and the rumor split apart. Part 6. Search Fantasia and the word bankruptcy right now, and you will find it stated as flat fact across dozens of videos and articles. Here is the problem. We went looking for the actual filing, the Chapter 7 or Chapter 11 or Chapter 13 petition that a real bankruptcy produces, with a docket number, a court, and a trustee attached to it. We could not find one anywhere. What the record actually shows is a lender lawsuit, a tax debt, and a house handed back to a bank. It is a foreclosure story and a tax story. It is not a bankruptcy, and those are two very different things. A foreclosure is what happens when you cannot pay a loan secured by a house, and the lender takes the house back. A bankruptcy is a separate filing in federal court to clear your debts, and that filing is the exact thing we cannot find anywhere under her name. And the strongest source on that is Fantasia herself. Speaking at a business summit in 2024, she said she looked up one day and owed $1 million in taxes, that because of it, her lawyer did not show up to court, that her house was put up for auction, and that a knock came at the door, and it was the first time in her whole life she had ever been served with anything. In her telling, no one ever once walked her through bankruptcy as a way out of it. She said the only choice she understood was to go to work or go to jail, so she went to work and paid the whole thing down herself. Now that $1 million tax figure is her own account, not a court document that we could pull down ourselves. And we are telling you which is which on purpose. We pull the actual court filings on a different artist every single week. Subscribe, and you will not miss the next one. Because the next question is the one that almost everyone gets wrong. If she lost both of the houses, what does she actually still own? Part 7. This is where the ownership gets specific, and where the lazy version, the one that says she owns nothing at all, falls completely apart. On the recordings she made for her first labels, the masters, she did not own them. That is simply how a standard major label deal signed by a teenager tends to work. The label pays for the studio time, and the label owns the tape at the end. But she wrote and co-wrote songs across those albums, which means she holds a songwriter's share, and she picked up songwriting awards for 2 of her early singles to prove that she does. That share pays her every single time one of those songs gets played anywhere in the world, whether she owns the master recording or not. And then the story changes direction completely. Starting in 2019, Fantasia began releasing music through her own label, one that she named Rock Soul Incorporated, and her first independent album under it went to #1 on the R&B album sales chart. Every recording she has made since then, she owns outright. In plain terms, the money from those newer records comes home to her instead of to a label, which is the whole reason artists fight so hard to own their own work. In April of 2024, she launched a second company right on top of it, a production company, with herself listed as the chief executive. So here is what she actually holds today. She never owned her earliest masters. She kept her writer's share the entire time, and she now owns her independent catalog and both of the companies built around it. That one distinction is about to matter more than anything else in this story, because it is the exact thing her own family is fighting about in public right now. Part 8. Before we get to that fight, look hard at where she actually stands today, because the comeback is real and it is documented. In 2023, she carried the film version of The Color Purple, and the awards run that followed put her on the Time 100 list in 2024 and earned her a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame the very next year. She went out and got herself certified as a sommelier and moved into the wine business. And she has a new film with the director Tyler Perry set for release. She talks now, openly, about the one thing she never understood the first time around. She has said that she did not know anything at all about a trust, and that these days she gets an actual kick out of it, that the whole lesson is to keep some of your own money and to do it the right way this time. That is a woman who lost 2 houses to a system she could not read, went out and learned how the paperwork actually works, and then rebuilt directly on top of it, which is exactly what makes the events of this year so strange. Because after all of that, after the entire rebuild, the accusation that someone was still reaching for her money did not come from a bank, or the government, or a record label. It came from inside her own home. Part 9. Fantasia married Kendall Taylor in 2015, and he runs the business side of everything alongside her. In February of this year, Kendall re-proposed to her at a concert with an 11-carat ring, marking 11 years together. Days later, her father, Joseph Barrino, went live on the internet and made an accusation. He claimed that a fired member of the financial team had told him money was unaccounted for. He suggested her husband was quietly handing some of it back, and he called the whole proposal a publicity stunt while asking his followers to pray for her. We have to be careful right here, because this is exactly the point where a channel can decide to hand you a villain and just move on. There is no proof. Kendall has denied it outright, going live himself to say that he was already running a company worth millions before he ever met her, that her career did not build him and did not shape him. And Fantasia fired back at her father directly, posting that she is the chief executive and her husband is the president of all of their companies, and asking out loud how a man could possibly steal from a company that he already runs. This is also not the first time her father has taken a private family dispute public and attached a big number to it. Back in 2006, Joseph Barrino sued the publisher of her memoir for $10 million over how he was portrayed inside its pages. Fantasia herself was not named anywhere in that suit, and no public resolution to it was ever reported. So we are labeling the money accusation for exactly what it is: an allegation made by her father, denied by her husband, with no filing anywhere behind it. All of it played out in public, on social media, in front of millions of people who follow her. What is actually documented here is only this one thing: the people fighting over her money now are her own family. Part 10. So put the whole ledger together, because that is the only way this entire story makes any real sense. Fantasia won American Idol at 19, sold nearly 2 million albums, won a Grammy, and carried both a Broadway show and a major studio film. And along the way, she lost 2 houses, one of them handed to the bank for nothing, behind a tax debt that she has put at $1 million, and contracts that she has said she could not even read. She did not, as far as any record actually shows, ever once file for bankruptcy. She worked it off instead. She never owned her earliest masters, but she kept her writer's share, built her own label, and owns everything she has made since. She got certified, learned exactly how a trust works, and came back to carry an Oscar-contending film. And now the only people being accused of reaching for her money are the ones sitting at her own kitchen table. The lesson sitting underneath all of it is not complicated. The fastest way to lose a fortune is to sign for it without being able to read the paper, and the last people you ever think to check are the ones sitting closest to you. If you want the one where a singer sold $170 million in records and then told a judge she had been left with $1,972, that is the Toni Braxton breakdown, and it is on the channel now.